Hello and welcome to Thank You Half Hour. My name is Tom Christopher Warren. I am your host here on this first snowy day of Columbus, and I am over the moon to welcome my guest today, whom I've known since she was a student in college and has since taken the world by storm on tour with Spongebob Squarepants at the most extraordinary regional theaters in the country, Utah Shakespeare Festival, Oregon Shakespeare Festival, and now taking New York City by storm in the off-Broadway mega hit, The Little Shop of Horrors. Please welcome my guest today, Daria Pilar Redus. Daria,
Hey, Tom.
hey.
How's it hanging?
Day by day here in the madness that we are calling this
Yes.
experiment of the country at the
Day
moment,
by day, minute by minute, even.
minute by minute. How are you? How is your heart? What are you are working full-time in Little Shop, just work, 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 work,
Yeah.
work. How are you loving the grind of New York? Is this your first show in the city, like 8 a week?
So I've worked at the Engelman Theater in Long Island, and so I'm trying to remember, that might have been between like 6 and 8 shows a week. But when it comes to being here in the city, yeah, this is my first show that isn't a reading or isn't, like a workshop. This is my first full-blown 8 show a week here in the city.
I
So
love it.
it's so great. I had been like hoping and wishing for work that keeps me here in the city. I have spent so much time like living essentially because of these contracts outside of New York City, a
Yeah.
lot of time on the West Coast, and I just wanted a job, even if it was Barnes and Noble, like that just kept me here in New York in an
Yeah.
apartment that is mine. I can come home to it. And so having that in show a show like Little Shop is
Yeah.
just everything I've wished for. So
Are
it's
you a
great.
homebody? Are you a nester where you love to come back to your little safe
Tom,
place?
I am I am the textbook dictionary definition of a homebody. I love nothing more than my alone time, like my solitude in the dark. Like I think I am like as I you saw I had to turn on the lights before we started because I just live in the dark. I am just as like homebody existing in my solitude as they come. And so that's what I like about touring is that it kind of forces me to just get out and see the world because I wouldn't do it on my own. And I'm not ashamed of that. That's not a bad thing to me, but I do like being able to like be out in the world and so having the show to go to every day gets me out of the house. It gets me meeting people and doing what I love. And so I'm so grateful, but I am a homebody. Yeah.
How are you? You've been in the show now for what, 2 months? Is it longer?
I think it's maybe just under 2 months. I started September. Oh, maybe. Well, I started um performances like September 24th, I think. Oh, so no, yeah, 2 months, just about 2 months. Yeah.
And you've learned Audrey now, and have you performed yet?
I actually haven't started learning Audrey yet. I
Okay.
start learning Audrey, I think, next week. Because we had to work in a new Audrey and Seymour, which is Sherry Renee Scott and Nick Christopher.
Right.
And then once they were in, which was right as they were rehearsing in like my first weeks of shows. So
Got it.
that kind of overlapped. And then we had to work in a new chiffon who had to learn her track and we had to teach some swings, some things. And so they haven't really had time to teach me Audrey yet, but things are settling down this coming week. So I'll start learning and I'm very excited.
Isn't it
It's
wild
gonna be
that
great.
I mean, come on, but the machine that is a long-running show, and this show, I saw the production. I've seen it a couple of times. The first time was early on in the run, and it is such a love letter to the original Off-Broadway Orpheum production. It's its own thing, but it is so, I don't know, it honors that production so clearly and so beautifully
Yeah.
through our lens, our production lens today. Um, but it's wild to be a part of the machine, the ins, the
Mhm.
outs, the comings, the goings. Then there's the pandemic, and then you've got swings learning, you've got covers learning, you've got a cast replacement right as you start.
Yeah,
It's kind of organized chaos, but
it is.
in a well-oiled machine sort of way, I would think.
It absolutely is. I know that, like, I've never joined a show in this way. I've never come into a show that had already been running and, I'm kind of the new kid on the block and trying to learn everything. My experience joining the show was really special because from my auditions, from when I auditioned for the show, they cast three of us. They cast me as Crystal and they cast two vacation swings. And the way the stars were aligning, we were all going to be debuting on the same day because
Oh,
all three urchins were going to be out of the show on that day. And so my like debut full time in the show was the same day as their debuts as swings. And so getting to join a show that had been running for so long, it has its legs, it has its heartbeat that's already established, but with three people supporting each other coming in brand new, I think did so much for the nerves too, because we were kind of all in it together. So I'm really grateful for the way I got to join this show because it can be intimidating
yeah.
joining a show that has seen so many like incredible, especially a show like this that has a lot of like guest hires like Jinx Monsoon and Sarah Hyland and Corbin Blue and you know what I mean? Like
Yes, high
so it can be
profile.
intimidating. Yes, very high profile. So I was so grateful for like the way I joined too with all that support. And it's such a supportive company. So supportive.
From what I understand, it has been since it opened. I mean, I've had friends come and go throughout the last, what did it open? 6 years ago, 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And it has always, I have heard that it's always just a loving, warm, supportive family, which is
Mm.
what you want from that show. It's such a lovely little jewel of a piece and always has been. Was
Yeah.
Savannah one of the vacation swings that learned it with you?
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
so great.
We
Savannah Lee
did the
Birdsong.
first yeah, Savannah Lee Birdsong. We did, she was with me the first week that we had started together. She was on for a week, and then, another swing, Haley, joined us, for a month. I think she was on as Chiffon, and we just got a new Chiffon, who was used to be Crystal. They also do a lot of that in this
Oh,
show. Yeah.
really?
So I became Crystal and she moved to Chiffon.
Great.
Um, yeah, so it's just definitely a machine and a lot of swapping and just, I mean, they keep it running.
I mean, and there's something to be said for keeping the doors open in, not only coming out of a pandemic, but then the political landscape and, Broadway as a sort of theatrical commercial landscape right now is bonkers. Um,
Mhm.
and Little Shop just is staying this anchor throughout all of it. It's a
So interesting.
it really is, but it's also, just such a lovely piece of the zeitgeist. People know the movie, people have known the show for many, many years, and it's such a good production, and it feels so from our lens through from an audience perspective, it feels so cared for. So, I'm not
Mhm.
surprised that it's staying the test of time. I'm surprised that anything stays the test of time, so I shouldn't totally say that, but
Yeah.
this makes
No, it's
sense.
it's not budging. It's not going anywhere. And
So
you talk about
great.
how it's like been, it's like a loved classic, if you will. I did not know. I knew of Little Shop, but when I say that, I guess I can say I knew Suddenly Seymour.
Yeah.
I knew that was a song that existed, but I didn't know what the show was about at all until I had received like notice of, I was in like final consideration.
Yeah.
And so I was like, maybe I should watch this movie. And I went home for Labor Day and my family was like, you haven't seen Little Shop? And so we watched the movie. And I remember turning to my family like, what on God's green earth do you have me watching right now? The plant started talking, and not only is he talking, he starts eating people, and then Audrey's got this funny lisp. I was like, this is so bizarre. And then I saw the show the day I received the call. I flew back to New York and then saw the show that night, started rehearsals the very next day. It
What?
was just such like a crazy whirlwind, but it's such a solid show. I absolutely think there's a reason it's been running for so long. It's such a well done
Yeah,
show, this production. But I think Little Shop in itself is a perfect musical.
I agree.
It's great.
I agree. Have you seen, so we're recording this mid-November. Have you seen Wicked yet, the movie?
No, I'm seeing it. What day is it? Thursday? I'm seeing it tomorrow. Tomorrow at 10:40 p.m. after my show.
I saw it last night, and you said, Little Shop is a perfect musical. the movie is perfect. It's perfect. It's I sobbed. I saw it last night. Sobbed throughout. It is, and I'm not no spoiler alerts, but like it took something that's heightened a piece of. First of all, it's the first musical, one of the first adaptations from stage to film that trusts what a musical is. Right? We get to this point where we can't express ourselves in spoken word anymore, so we sing or we dance, and it just trusts that. It just does it. It doesn't hide behind a dream sequence or anything. It does what a musical does. But with these actors, I just there's not a weak link, and they all take what is done on stage and just keeping all of the honesty, and they shrink it down to film size, and it's perfect. Ariana and Cynthia they're mind blowing, mind
Oh my
blowing.
gosh. What an endorsement. I'm like, well, because that was my biggest thing because everyone knows they're gonna sing the house down. I'm
Oh,
like, are we giving acting cares? Are we caring about
well,
the
Cynthia's a
subject?
masterclass. Like
Mhm.
everything she does is so cared for and thought through and smart and intuitive. And then she sings, next level, right? It's just like something we've never heard. And they've been really smart to not. There are enough vocal surprises that we haven't heard in any of the trailers or the TikToks
Good.
or anything. So there are enough moments where like, it's just shockingly good.
Mhm.
And then Ariana is stunning. Her
Oh,
acting is stunning.
wow. Oh my God, I have
Just wait,
goosebumps.
just wait, just sobbed, and then the visuals jaunt you. It's just stunningly shot.
Wow.
Yeah,
I cannot wait to go see it. Yeah, I'm seeing it tomorrow, and I have not heard a single person that's already seen it say one negative thing. I have heard, I mean, it's this reaction. It is like exceeding everyone's expectations.
it's wild. It's completely,
Mhm.
and they didn't cut anything. I mean, I'm sure I don't know the show that well. I've seen it probably 4 times over 20 years, but it feels like they didn't cut anything. Not the incidental music, not the recit. Like they've done a service to the musical, which does a service to the novel, and so it just creates this experience that is really, really wonderful.
Yeah. Now it's a part one and two. And so does this first movie, is it just like a really fleshed out Wicked on Broadway Act One?
Yeah, yeah, so it ends
Does it
with
end with Defying Gravity?
it does, and it is so thrilling the way they've shot Defying Gravity. It's just and not just the way they've shot. Cynthia is just extraordinary in the storytelling and, of course, the vocals. Defying Gravity is the perfect end of this movie,
Wow.
and it doesn't feel too long. It doesn't feel like they've fleshed it out in a sort of a way that feels like money grabbing. It feels like they filled a full movie, and I'm ready for them to fill the whole second movie. I
Wow.
know it's bonkers.
I guess they know what they're doing.
Apparently.
I heard part one and part two, and I was just like, for real,
Same.
really, must we? But I apparently that was the right choice. So I need to like sit back and shut up and just watch it
Eh,
and appreciate it because apparently it's great.
that's what I did. Tell me remind me where you're from.
I'm from Ohio, suburb of Cleveland, so just
Where?
like 2 hours from Otterbein.
Where?
Like the Cleveland area, like Solon, Ohio is where I am
Because my
from.
in-laws are all in Lorraine, so I know the
Oh
Cleveland.
yes,
Yes, like
yes. I grew up in like Moreland Hills, then like moved to Solon. Uh, went to like another vocational school in Chagrin Falls, so I
yeah,
was just
oh
like
yeah,
all over like the Cleveland area. School in Columbus, Otterbein, and
yeah.
then my dad's in Cincinnati. So I'm just all of Ohio.
So, what in this Solon little girl who is growing up? What inspired you to a life on the stage? Was it the tours that were coming through? Did you have local theater groups that you worked with?
Man, so I was a part of at my school there was the community theater called Stagecrafters, and I did some Stagecrafters shows growing up, and I think as cliche as it might sound, I always felt not even really drawn to the stage as much as I just felt drawn to storytelling, but storytelling specifically through acting. I was never much of a writer, or a
Hmm.
poet or an artist. I was really drawn to storytelling through acting. And growing up, I don't think I really got a lot of opportunities to see if I was any good, I guess you could say. Like, I don't think I really got a lot of opportunities um, to be on stage in a way that could inform like my parents or inform me if I was like if this was just something I liked to do after school or if it was really something that I was not only good at but really wanted to pursue. And it wasn't until I joined my this vocational program my junior and senior year of high school with Kaylee Barrett, shout out.
Yes.
Um, we did it together, and it wasn't until I got there that I was like, wait, people take this very seriously. Like acting is a craft. Like, and it was there that I discovered that I have a real passion for truth truth telling, storytelling. And then I learned that you can like go to college to play make believe, and I was like, oh, if my parents will approve and pay for it, sign me up. Like I'm not gonna go to college for like biochem. I'm going to go for dress up. And so yeah, I think I struggled a little bit in school in like high school, pre-college, like getting opportunities to really flex my muscles, like really see what I'm working with.
Mhm.
And it wasn't until I got to college that I my passion for this just like took off, really took off.
Well, I met you as a college senior, so granted, you were already at
Yeah,
the end of your college career, but you were fully formed as a storyteller by the time I met you, and I suppose I met you when I interviewed for that position, you were a junior. Even by then, your storytelling was so clear, so specific, so intentional, and, sometimes people are very talented, but they may have a different path in mind for,
sure.
you know, how to go about pursuing this as a working professional artist. You had all of that clearly formed in your mind. And are you a manifester? Or you mentioned that you put out into the universe that you wanted to work and you wanted a job in New York. Is that
I don't know if if you ask a real true manifester, they would say I'm an imposter. Like, no, I'm not like a real true manifester, but I wish upon a star. Like
yeah,
I really do. Like I set out like an intention for the next X amount of months or
yeah.
year of my life and really do the things I can to see it come into play.
Do you
Yeah.
know Felicia Pearl Pazzi? Do you know her? She uh,
Perhaps not my name.
has been in Lion King for a long time, but if you saw the musical adaptation, the film adaptation of Color Purple, she's young Fantasia. She's young Celie.
Oh, okay. Yes, yes, yes.
And she talks a lot about manifesting, and your energy about talking about creating this reality where you're working in New York. And we ran into each other on the street not long ago, and you said the same thing. This before Little Shop. You're like, I want to work where I live. I want to live where I
Yes.
work, and I want that to be here. It
Yeah.
it feels so intentional, and we talked a little bit before we pressed go on the podcast about this world being kind of bonkers right now, and manifesting those nuggets of joy to
Yeah.
keep you rooted. That important to you?
Absolutely, absolutely. Having a sturdy foundation of joy. I've honestly, and I've said this before, I love what I do. I love performing. I love storytelling. It's not my source of happiness. It is something that brings it brings like a light to me. It makes me feel like I'm leading a purpose-driven life. Like I'm giving back in like a way that's really important and it makes me feel good. Like I really love stepping into other people's shoes and things. But I try to round out my life in other ways outside of the world of theater that make me feel really full and complete. And when things happen to be going my way or in a way that is some might say successful in my career, it's like a cherry on top. It just rounds it out. Like and so before I booked Little Shop, I was babysitting here in the city, and I just had like the time of my life. Like these kiddos who I miss so dearly, like even that rounded me out and was making me feel so full and happy. And I just have been trying to, now more than ever, solidify that foundation of joy that can't be shaken by idiots in office or crazy people on the street
Yeah.
or, and so I think that's of utmost importance to me is just creating a super sturdy foundation of joy.
I was going to ask you how the current for those listening months from now. I'm just going to say that we're recording this a couple of weeks post election, and so the world feels very uh, volatile at the moment. And I was going to ask you how has your work changed post in this current world, but I suppose the bigger question, and you're answering it, is how does the landscape change or inform how you live your life? Because the work is, as you've said, one aspect of a much
Yeah.
fuller, richer, well-rounded life. Is it changing your intention in terms of how you pursue the work or other work that you pursue? I know your time is very wrapped up in Little Shop, but
Yeah. Oh man, there is so much there. There is so much there. Well, to kind of get at the first part of your question, it was that Wednesday morning, the morning after the election, and it was one of those things, Tom, that like when you get when something happens, when you get news that is so larger than life, it feels like it should stop time. It feels like life shouldn't go on. Like
right.
it was whatever o'clock in the morning I woke up and then I found out the news and I heard horns outside and I heard like construction going on and I was like, people are showing up to work today. Like, where are people going? Like, you can't, how are we doing anything today? And I was going through this crazy issue with my bank at the time and I like had to go into the bank that morning. Then I had two shows that day and I was like, I can't go to the bank. I can't go do Little Shop of Horrors like on a day like this. Like, and so it was really it bothered me. It really got to me having to get up and go to the theater that day.
Yeah.
And I especially doing I call it a silly little show, doing a silly little show on such a catastrophic day. And my heart went out to like all my Suffs family, like, oh my gosh,
Yep.
like, and Ragtime was going on that day. And how do you do shows like that on a day like that?
Right.
And so now and I'm just singing about a silly human eating murderous plant. Like that just felt so silly on that day. But so the first show that Wednesday was rough. It was just, I think we all had that feeling of why are we here?
Yeah.
And then the night show that day was probably the most fun, goofy, light, supportive experience I've maybe ever had on a stage. And I think it was born out of like community and like necessity, making the most out of like what we just had to do, where we had to be. Having that community there, that community of Black women specifically in that theater was just exactly what the doctor ordered. And I wouldn't have wanted to be anywhere else in the world on that day besides with my Adam.
Yeah.
But anywhere else on that day than in that theater with those women. It ended up being something I was dreading that turned into couldn't have spent it any other way. Little Shop saved me, I think, that day.
Isn't that wild? I was listening to Cynthia Erivo on a podcast who referenced, we're not, uh, I'm paraphrasing, but we're not life and death. We're artists, and then continuing to say, but art does have the extraordinary power to heal and to soothe and to enlighten and to open. And I stand by that too. Are we first responders? No, of course not. It's not
Yeah.
to say anything, but it does have the power to help us to reframe and to think about something in a different way. And in the case of our current landscape, to serve as a balm, in what promises to be a really challenging uh, upcoming several years.
Yeah.
We just had a Nazi um, march here in Columbus last week that made the
I
news.
heard about that. Yeah.
Bonkers. I mean, it's just bonkers.
Um,
The emboldened nature of hate spreading is terrifying if you allow it to terrify you, or but it is very revealing. We now see our neighbors and in a new light, and that can be powerful in its own way. And we find community in each other, right? Which is what actors do
Yeah,
anyway. We start a show and
yeah,
we're immediate family, and it's wild.
it is, and that's one of the hardest things too, is, like, I think there used to be a time, and this is my opinion,
Mm.
there used to be a time where, we couldn't let politics divide us. We couldn't let
Mhm.
politics, get in the way of our relationships. And I think such a heartbreaking thing about politics, which I don't even believe are politics
Agreed.
anymore. Um, it's just simply not the case anymore, and it can't be the case for a lot of us. I think there are some people, that walk a life in this world that can afford to let politics just be politics, and there are others that, just can't. And I don't think people put themselves in other people's shoes to be able to see that it is bigger than just politics.
Right, right. It's humanity, it's shared humanity and empathy, and yeah, we've struggled with that for nearly a decade now since his first administration, and we will
Yeah.
continue to struggle with it and navigate it and find community with each other.
Yeah,
We're very lucky to be both of us to be a part of chosen families that
absolutely.
have each other's backs. You know.
Yeah, need it right now.
Oh Lord, how is Adam?
Oh, where do I start? Where do I
What a
start?
dreamboat.
He really is. Adam's my fiance, for those who don't know. He's wonderful. He is out on tour. He actually left Monday,
Okay.
the day before the election.
Oof.
So it was literally he leaves, the world crumbles. He's not here to make everything better.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, he's off on tour. He's in Alabama right now.
Okay.
And yeah, they just opened the show a couple days ago, and
Great.
he is doing great. He's so talented. He is just the best head audio in the industry.
I love it.
I'm so proud of him. So yeah, he'll be out on tour for the next 8 months. I hope I get to see him at one point in the next 8 months. But their schedule is brutal. I don't
Yeah.
He has one layoff in 2025, and it might get filled with a week of shows.
Oh.
So I'll see him eventually.
Are they doing one-nighters or are they week sit downs?
This schedule is pretty nice in that
Okay.
there's a lot of sit downs, but all of their they don't have a lot of like golden days in a sit down. Like they're traveling every Monday,
Yep.
which makes it hard for me if I wanted to just pop over and see him on a Monday that I have off.
Yeah.
They're always traveling on a Monday, so but I'll see him at some point. I'm not going anywhere. He's not going anywhere. But
And
he's going
I know,
everywhere.
right, exactly. And I'm working with him now on this
Yes.
production of A Christmas Carol. He's our soundscape designer, and he's brilliant, as I knew he would be. I got to
Yes.
work with him last summer and meet him for the first. He came up to me and he said, I don't think we haven't met, but you know my girlfriend, not yet fiance." And, immediately fell head over heels for him because he's fantastic and you're fantastic. I got to see you. Have I not seen you face to face since Sound of Music? I think that might be
I think it was
right.
Sound of Music when you so kindly flew all the way out to wherever, Utah.
I mean, it was breathtaking. I tell people the story of so Daria did Maria in The Sound of Music remarkably, and that night, these Shakespeare festivals that do these shows in rep, sharing spaces and the crews loading in, loading out a couple of times a day. It's wild and fabulous. And so I saw Sound of Music in the afternoon, and I saw Clue at night, and we had dinner, and you said, "You will not recognize me. I am unrecognizable." And can I tell the Hunter story?
Tell everything.
So so playing the cook in Clue, and Hunter Foster famously directed it brilliantly. It was an incredible production. And you said Hunter's direction to me was, "She is not from here and she's pissed about it." And I had that information going into the show, and I've never laughed so hard. I mean, and I
Oh
can't
my
even describe what you did because it wouldn't translate. It had to be witnessed. If you missed it, you missed it. You lose.
god.
Oh my God, it was so funny.
Just I was an angry Russian, maybe Russian, maybe
Maybe
I don't know, an angry Russian cook, pissed, pissed,
pissed.
and
And
then just delighted with the sound of music.
oh,
I would
I'm
literally hear audience members be like, "That's Maria. No, it's not. That's
because
Maria."
you were such a light as Maria. I mean, that's, The Sound of Music. We've all seen it. We've all seen a community theater production. We've all seen the high school production, and everyone on the planet's seen the movie. And so we have our preconceived notions. And then this just joyful, stunning, brilliantly acted, and of course, gorgeously sung portrayal of Maria. You don't go to a Shakespeare festival automatically assuming you're going to see The Sound of Music. But when you do, man, that acting is going to be on point.
I did my darndest.
Yeah, it was great.
Oh, that's the show I could do for forever.
Really?
A little bit. Oh my gosh, yes. Like it's a heart show
Yeah.
and a show surrounded by a bunch of little cute,
Little
sweet
nuggets.
babies.
Yeah.
Just my dream. Just my dream.
All right. So as we wrap up, what do you have that you're looking forward to coming up? We've got the holidays coming up. You've got a million show schedule, I'm sure, coming up.
Yeah,
What are you looking forward to?
I am looking forward to so later this month, I'm going on a cruise with my family and my Adam. So he gets time off tour. I get time off Little Shop.
Awesome.
Going on this cruise, and we're probably just gonna like hide out somewhere and just be with each other,
Yeah.
Because families are crazy.
Yeah.
And he gets to come home for Christmas. And Adam's mom is actually flying to New York to spend the holidays with us, and she is like the epitome of like a I just want to love on you and feed you Italian mama. And so she's like flying with like full platters of like lasagna and all this stuff in her suitcase. She does it every time. So she's going to spend Christmas with us here.
Amazing.
I'm looking forward to wedding planning.
Yep.
We've like mostly talked about, fall 2026.
Great.
Looking forward to that and just finding my little nuggets of joy and collecting them into one big old joyful little life.
You're incredible. You're
So are
absolutely
you.
incredible. You really are. You're just a light in every room. You walk into a room and you light it up with positivity, with joy, with purpose. We see that as audience members when we watch you work, and we feel it when we share space with you in every capacity. And it's just such a pleasure to see your face.
Oh, Tom, you too.
So
You
proud
are
of you.
just my favorite.
I'm so proud of you. You enjoy your holidays. Give your
You
fiance a big hug from me.
too.
Thank you. I will. I will. And I hope I get to see you very soon.
You too, Tom. I'll give Adam all the squeezes and
Please do.
I wish you all the best, always and forever.
Back at you. I love you.
Love you too.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, half hour.
Boxland Media. Think big.